Hi there, thanks for joining this webinar. This is a Remy Reports webinar for the freelance creative newsletter, Remy Reports, from my website, remyreports.com. And for those who aren't aware, I'm going to go into a little bit more about who I am on a few more slides. But this particular webinar is about personality traits needed for freelancers. And so the contents of this webinar will talk about, as I mentioned, about me. So just a bit an introduction if there's anyone who's joined this webinar and is new, a little bit about myself. I'll also talk about the personality traits that are needed for freelancers, which will be talking about resilience, boundaries, confidence, organization, creative expression, and it will have a Q&A at the end. This is a excuse me for my phone. This will be a pre-recorded webinar, and so although it will be pre-recorded, I will be joining in once it premieres, so you can ask questions at the end in the live chat or throughout, and I'll try my best to answer as the webinar is premiering. I'll answer via the chat, or you can leave comments. If you're watching this on the replay, you can leave comments on the permanent video, which will be up, and from there we can converse, and I'll try and answer the comments there. So a little bit about me, for those who don't know, I am a freelancer of 6 years now. This November will be 7 years. So I'm an author of the book Creativity with the Creator, and that's about including God in your creative process. So including your Christian faith in your creative processing and your work. I have published pieces in The Independent, Business Insider, Refinery 29, and more. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. In terms of the type of writing I do, it spans across journalism, copywriting, and content writing. So these are a few testimonials from clients that I've had in the past across these different industries. When I've done newsletters, blogging, and articles as well. So let's get into the first, and I think the main personality trait that is required for being a freelancer, and I think that's resilience. And I've done stroke faith, and I'll explain why. So resilience is something that is needed for you to keep on going on. I don't know if you've heard it before, or if you've experienced it as a freelancer. Most freelancers have the ups and downs of it. Some people compare freelancing to like a roller coaster ride. And so, in the ups and downs of it, when you are in the downs, you need faith to believe that it will go up again. And you can't easily be given, if you can't be tempted to give up, or you can be tempted, but don't give in to the temptation to give up so easily when you're on the downsides of freelancing. And so resilience and faith that things will get better, I believe, is the main thing that's required as a freelancer. And so I'm going to go into breaking down the different types of faith that's needed. So you'll need faith in yourself. So faith in the power that you have and the voice that you have to help others and other business owners with the service that you're offering. And so you need to believe that the value that you have in yourself and the service that you're offering is worth the ups and downs of freelancing throughout it all. You have to believe in yourself to believe that the value that you have and the unique value that you have, because there might be other competitors out there, but they're not going to be able to bring the unique thing that you bring. So it's important to have that perspective and have faith in the unique voice and value that you have to clients. So that's one aspect of faith. But also, we know that in life there are things that are outside of our control. Um, and so, faith in something bigger than you, outside of yourself, I would say is also essential. And obviously, as a Christian myself, that is my creator, God. Um, Trusting that God is in control and sovereign throughout it all, and that He's going to provide for me regardless of how things look on the in the moment when things are tough. Believing in something bigger outside of yourself can really help you in the freelance journey. So I definitely believe that's something that's an aspect of faith and resilience that's needed and to consult and consider when you are a freelancer. And then I also say faith in your service and your business. So the early stages of freelancing and sometimes moments throughout your career, you may want to change or slightly alter the service that you're offering. But as you do that, you should recognize that each time you're changing it, it should be upgrading it for the better, upgrading it for the climate. Industries change, trends change. So making sure that whatever service you're offering and whatever type of thing that you're altering it to has again value and value to the climate and the prospects that you're trying to reach out to. And so these are the three different types of faith and resilience I believe that is needed as a freelancer. So if you are someone that naturally tends to lead into, and I think we can all fall into it sometimes, and I'm going to speak and touch on it a little bit later, imposter syndrome or becoming discouraged very easily, I believe that's definitely something you're going to need to work on your freelance journey or before you decide to become a freelancer. It's something that you need to know that resilience is definitely something you're going to need if you want to be a successful freelancer for the long run. And so, boundaries is another thing that I think is worth um, and essential for you to be confident and assertive with as a freelancer. Um, Sometimes there are some clients that like to haggle to the point where they almost discredit or devalue the service that you're bringing. And so whether it's boundaries with your pricing or, how willing you are to compromise or to um, how willing you are to negotiate, I should say. These things you need to be clear on, know your limits, know your standards, and yeah, try not to go below them and stand firm on them and not fall under them too quickly. Um, there's several reasons for this. If you put your boundaries early with a client or a prospect that you're speaking with, it means that later down the line, there's likely to be less miscommunication issues popping up. And so it should be a smoother ride for both you and your client to be able to work together if you're both clear on what you're going to be getting or what you'll be bringing to the table in your working relationship. So I would say try and, as early as possible, discuss the boundaries that you have with your clients. And there's different ways you can do that. So you can have a presentation pack. The presentation pack can be something that you do, you can even do it via Canva. And that just is like an introductory pack as to how you usually work. And you can give this to the client via email. They can have a look at it. And then if they have any questions that come up from reading the pack and taking their own time to read it, they can then come to you afterwards and you can then discuss further the expectations on both sides and just to create clarity really. And I would also say when you have a sales call, so that's when you maybe even before you start working with the client, and you're just discussing the potential of working together, use the sales call as an opportunity not to just discuss your services but to ask the client questions and ask and vet whether they are the type of client that will work well with you as well. Because it's not just about whether you are a good fit for them. As a freelancer, as a self employed person, you have the ability to discuss and decipher whether the client is someone that you would like to work with and if you're a good match. And so yeah, I would say use the sales call as an opportunity. um, and yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions and interview them to see if you're going to fit well. Because ultimately, you want to be, as a self employed person, you want to have that control to work with people that you like and who are going to respect the boundaries that you have. So definitely use the sales call and a presentation pack if you would like to be clear on your boundaries early. Um, yeah. And so I would say if you're someone who struggles with boundaries, again, that's something to work on um, before you become a business owner, or it might be something that you strengthen in the process of being a freelancer. As you'll find out very quickly that without boundaries, um, sometimes people will try and um, take the mick with you, to put it lightly. And so that kind of links as well to confidence. So, being a self employed person, you are the main person who's going to be advocating. It's not like you're an employee and then there's a marketing team separate to yourself. You are the marketer, you are the service the provider, you are the admin person. And so, all of these things, whilst you can also, of course, you can outsource virtual assistants to help you with this, you're still going to be need to be like the final say person because you are the boss of your business, you are your business. And so in order to do that, you need to be confident about everything that's happening in your business, confident about the way that you're presenting yourself through marketing. You need to be confident in the service that you're offering primarily. And so this is where I'm going to touch on a little bit about imposter syndrome. Sometimes where you might be in a situation where, like I mentioned before, there might be a little bit of a slow time or slow period in freelancing. Those times, I would say for me, my experience is that those are times where there can be a temptation for imposter syndrome to kick up, and in the to prop up. In those moments, what I've found has been helpful is when I've looked back at my portfolio of work, people that I've worked with before, um, articles that I've written, reviews of people who have actually worked with me. These are great encouragement. And to be honest with you, I when I look at my portfolio, I just look to God and thank God for Him because I am very aware. I've shared my story before, but freelancing is not something that I had a set plan to go into. I didn't know what freelancing really was when I got my first freelance client. I didn't actually know what it was, and so my whole freelance journey, I just credit to God. And looking at my portfolio is a reminder of how far God has taken me, how He's initiated my freelance career and sustained me for 6 years. Uh, so I would say one way to kind of encourage your confidence when you may be feeling a little bit discouraged in a slow season is to look at your portfolio, so yeah, leveraging reviews from clients, people we've worked with, and also networking with other freelancers, I think is another good way to help with your confidence because it makes you feel, as a freelancer, sometimes you can feel like you're all alone because you are mainly working with your by yourself, especially if you're a remote freelancer such as myself. Uh, it can sometimes feel like you not many other people who are employees around you understand the nuances and the nuanced challenges of freelancing. And so networking and finding other freelancers, I think, is a really key way to help with your confidence as they can encourage you. I've spoken when times have been hard for me as a freelancer or challenging as a freelancer. Having an encouraging word from someone else who's a creative or a freelancing has really helped me to remind myself of that things will get better because we're all human, right? We can sometimes fall into that, have moments where we fall into discouragement. And so having people and community, which is something that we are all made to be as part of community, can really help encourage you and build up your confidence. And the good thing about networking nowadays is that there's so many different ways to do it. So as an introvert, I tend to prefer my go-to method for networking is more so like text-based groups, and that has been helpful. But also jumping on some Zoom calls can be helpful, or in-person networking events, if you prefer, are also available as well. And doing that sometimes in your local area can even be more useful because it means that you might have like a working buddy that you can meet up with often. And then that helps with your general uh, social health, which can therefore help with your confidence even better, even more. And so those are the different things that I think can help you with encouraging your confidence as a freelancer. And it is a personality trait that you're going to have to build up. And it might be an ongoing process. I know that there's definitely some things that is an ongoing process for me. So definitely do consider confi- building up your confidence when you are a in the position of considering being a freelancer, or you are a freelancer. That's definitely a trait that needs to be built up. So, organization. Now, not everyone has organization as a gift, but as a business owner, it's important for you to definitely strengthen this skill. Uh, and so the reason why is because you're not just working by yourself as for yourself. You're not just working for yourself. You're working with people as a business owner, and so the clients that you're working with need to be clear on what services you are offering, but also clear on deadlines and the way that you work. This kind of touches on a little bit onto the boundaries as well, but being organized and presenting it in a way where it's clear to them and they're not having to guess is important. Staying in contact with them regularly to let them know when they can expect deliverables, if there is, because we know that sometimes things are outside of our control. If something does pop up, that means that the deadline may be delayed or slightly altered. Communicating that to your client as early as possible is a form of organization, and it shows that you are considerate of their time. So this is important in order to have successful client relationships long term. And the good thing in this day and age is that there's loads of digital tools that can make it easier for you to do this. So Google Calendar is my go-to. I use it to set up meetings there. I use Google video calls as well often. Um, you can also have a physical diary if you prefer the traditional way. Scheduling that in. You can have a to-do list on a board and tick it off as you go along. Calendly is another great tool. It's a tool that allows you to not just create a schedule on your own time, but you can send a link to your client, and your client can book in a meeting directly on your calendar. And it sets it up in a way where it will only show dates that you are available and times that you are available. So I find that's a very seamless tool. Sorry. And so that's very useful. There's also time blocking apps like Toggle Track that allow you to focus as you track time whilst you are working. So that's useful if you get sometimes distracted when you're working. A time blocking app like Toggle Track can help you with that. And I think uh, another thing of being organized, and it kind of merges in slightly with the boundaries point that I made. But if you do work in an unorthodox way, let your client know this as well. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what I mean on the next slide for this. But it's all about being clear with communication as early as possible and as regularly as necessary and often. Discuss with your client how often they like to speak and touch base with you. Some clients are like, as long as they get the work done, they don't need to know, um, they don't feel like they need to be in constant contact with you. Whereas some clients would prefer a little bit more um, regular communication. And so the the aim is to make sure that your client feels seen and valued, and that is through organization. And so we're going to talk about creative expression, which is actually the last slide. So as a freelancer, you have creative control over how you work. So that means the way that you creatively express yourself can show up not just in the work that you create and the services that you offer, but also how you connect with your clients. So this might be a bit more limited when you are in a employee role. there might be a set way where the employer demands that you communicate with them, or the way that you do the work, and it's more rigid. But as a freelancer, you do have control over how you can do that. So, for example, for me, I'm an introvert, and that means I tend to internalize things more, or internally process before I share externally. Sometimes that means, or it looks like to the outside, that I'm taking a bit longer, but it's just that it's the way that I like to be careful before I share. Some people process out loud, so they're more quick to share things. Um, Whereas I just I'm always processing, but it's going to be internally first before I share with you. And so as a writer, this kind of fits in with the gifting that I have. So with writing, you can obviously internalize things as you're writing it out. You can type more time. But if I'm in a meeting, for example, I'm more likely to take things in before I maybe respond straight away. And so I might have a meeting, take notes from it. I might have a few questions, but then I might go a bit more detailed after the meeting in an email, a follow up email, or even a follow up call after I've thought about what's been discussed. And so this is one of the ways that I creatively express myself. And as a freelancer, I have the ability to be able to uh, express that in that way and not feel limited in that way. And that's the way I get my work done best. And so I think that's something you can include in your boundaries if you are like that, whichever way you choose to express yourself, or you feel comfortable expressing yourself. That could be something you include in your boundaries, or your presentation pack, or when you're discussing on the sales call, asking questions about the client and how they usually work. Maybe it's an opportunity for you to bring that up. If they ask you, how do you usually work? Discuss the fact that the way that you creatively express and process things um, is in a particular way. And so, as a freelancer, you have more freedom and creative control to not feel ashamed, or not feel as boxed in to a particular approach. There's more flexibility in you to be able to work with your client and how that comes across. And so, that's another thing that that's more so unique to your personality trait. So, whatever personality you have, um, it's about communicating that with the client to make sure that they understand your creative expression and how that works. So, yeah. So, those are the personality traits needed, or the way that you can use your personality as a freelancer. So, as I said, this is a pre recorded webinar, but there will be a section um, on the right hand side, I believe, on as a live chat for you to be able to put any questions you may have, and I can reply in real time there. Or you can leave a comment once this webinar has concluded, and I will respond once the premiere is ended. But thank you again for tuning in to this webinar. I really hope it encouraged you, that I hope it provided context as to what type of things are needed as a personality to strengthen in your freelancing. But also, I hope it helped you to feel seen, that whatever personality you have, because of the flexibility and creative freedom as a freelancer, you are able to use that to your advantage and create a service, or create a format within your freelancing that allows you to accurately and confidently uh, present this as a service to your clients and the prospects that you're reaching out to. For those who are unaware, my blog, remyreports.com, is a online resource for freelance creatives. It's got loads of articles there. It's got interviews with other freelancers in there. One of the recent articles actually that I've done is interviewing two introverted creatives about how they creatively process. That is something that I can relate to. I share a little bit about my experience there. So there's a blog there. Um, and yeah, there's other things in there that will hopefully help you, or is designed to help you on your freelance journey and your journey as a creative. Um, you can follow me on Instagram at Remy Reports, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or both. On LinkedIn, it's my name, Maxine Harrison. And yes, please, if you don't have any comments or questions, I would say please do leave feedback either via email. My email is info@remyreports.com. If you're part of my newsletter, it's the same email that you receive the newsletter on. So please do provide me with feedback, as I really do appreciate that. I really would like to know how these webinars, I'm encouraged so far by the feedback that I have received, but I definitely 100% would like to hear feedback from each webinar that I'm doing. And so please, if this has been useful, or if you've felt anything that just popped up that you'd like to share with me, please do send me an email or message me on socials about this. But thank you for joining, and I hope you have a lovely evening.